This is a special episode where Startup Podcast reacts to Philippine Startup Week 2021. So for this episode, magi-interview tayo ng mga students na nag-attend ng Philippine Startup Week 2021, which is brought to us by DOST, DTI, DICT, and Kubo Innovation Hub and the Philippine Startup Community just last week. So we will know first bakit sila umattend. Second, magkikwento sila ng events na pinuntahan nila at anong natutunan nila. And third, what they think about the Philippine startup industry. So let's start. So introduce muna natin ang ating reactors. So first, we have Jane. She's a DOST scholar and master student of Bionics Engineering in University of Pisa and Sant'Anna School of Advanced Studies in Italy. So live from Italy, Jane.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Next, we have Joshua. He's a computer science graduating student and former student council president in FEU Tech, Manila.
Hi. Happy to be here po.
And Shaina, she's an agribusiness management and entrepreneurship junior student in UP Los Baños.
Hello po everyone. It's nice to be here.
So bigla ko lang silang linapitan para interviewin dito sa special episode ng Startup Podcast in partnership with Philippine Startup Week 2021. So start na tayo. So ang una nating tanong ay bakit nga ba kayo umattend ng Philippine Startup Week? So let's start with Jane.
So, I attended the Philippine Startup Week because it fits with my mission of developing the robotics industry in the Philippines. I know entrepreneurship will holistically shape this endeavor, but I want to dig deeper. What is entrepreneurship actually? So when I researched about it, I saw the definition by Law and Macmillan in 1988 in the Journal of Management, and it says it's the control of and deployment of resources to create an innovative economic organization for the purpose of gain or growth under conditions of risk or uncertainties. So thus, it's empowering innovators will impact the resources and the economy as a whole. And furthermore, I like how courage and vulnerability play huge roles in nurturing these pursuits. So learning from this conference enables me to be exposed to concepts now that I can exploit in the future.
Okay, so napaka-intense ng sagot na yun. Okay, let's go naman with Joshua. So Joshua, bakit ka umattend ng Philippine Startup Week?
Parang hirap tapatan nyo kay Miss Jane. Pero thank you, Sir Janni, for that wonderful question. I attended the Philippine Startup Week for two reasons. One, the advocacies of the, really want to know the different advocacies of the startup presented or the exhibitors, yung mga iba't ibang kwento din nila. The second one is the story itself. I'm really into the story din ng mga startup. Parang paano sila nagsimula, paano sila napilayan, paano sila bumangon ulit, which is most of the new startup din nararamdaman din yun. So these stories, yung mga kinukwento ng mga success startup din na piniresent sa PH Startup Week, sobrang nakaka-inspire. And I myself as a future technopreneur, nakita ko yung way na parang ito na pala yung tamang daan na pwede kong sundan. Itong taong to, itong founder na to, pwede kong kausapin, pwede kong hingan ng tips paano yung gagawin ko if bubuo ako ng ganito. The advocacy naman, I'm really into the advocacy stories din, which is kasi right now all of the problems na meron tayo dito sa bansa natin, we can solve it through the advocacy na meron tayo, through the SDGs din. Mapapansin natin, we only have 9 years na lang to fulfill the SDG 2030 goals. Kumbaga, then some of the startups din, ito yung ginagawa nila to fulfill this SDGs din. And which is, sobra akong natutuwa. And talagang this year naging much better than last year yung PH Startup Week.
Ay, napaka-inspiring naman ng sagot na yun ni Joshua, pang Miss Universe or Mr. Universe. So, Shaina, sa'yo naman. So, bakit ka nga ba umattend ng Philippine Startup Week?
So for me naman po, initially talaga, I just signed up to the event because I just find the promotional material po very interesting and intriguing at the same time. Given na yung term na startup for me is really a fancy word. But upon joining the event proper po talaga, I just realized na it really started with my increasing curiosity and interest towards startup and also to advanced technologies and innovations, including the blockchain technology, which are being utilized to different problems and challenges our society is facing. So also another reason which I had just realized during the event proper po. So kind of hidden or unspoken agenda that I have in the back of my mind is yung eagerness to widen my network, given na nung nag-a-attend ako ng mga webinar or pitch challenge wherein mga startup yung mga kasali, I always ask na how could I find a network of team na pwede kong maging workmates on my future startup. Yun po yung akin.
Amazing. And speaking of that, si Joshua nga pala and si Shaina, ang dalawa sa ating newly onboarded interns dito sa Startup Podcast. And by the way, so introduce ko rin pala ang aking sarili. So kasama pala ako sa discussion na to. So I'm also a student din pala. So this is an episode for students. I'm also a PhD student of Industrial Engineering in National Taiwan University. So maybe I'll answer din yung question sa bakit nga ba ako umattend and bakit sumali ang Startup Podcast sa Philippine Startup Week, because syempre, like this is the biggest startup conference in the Philippines and it's like Startup Podcast just could not go and attend. And especially na-invite nga tayo as official media partner, so we're very thankful for that. And we're very thankful also sa Philippine Startup Week sa lahat ng events and especially sa job fair and sa virtual booths kasi that's actually how we connect. Like, doon tayo actually nagkita-kita. And that's how you got onboarded sa Startup Podcast. Okay, so thank you. So that's enough introduction for our reactors. So let's start with the events. So let's now learn about some of the many events in Philippine Startup Week 2021. So let's start with Jane. So pwede ka bang magkwento, Jane, ng event na pinuntahan mo and maybe what you learned from it? Naka-mute ka pa, Jane.
Hello.
Ayan, hello. So kwento naman dyan.
So yung una kong event na inattendan is Tech Transfer for Universities, Licensing and Establishment of Spin-off Company and Commercialization by the Bulacan State University. Okay, I prepared a very formal
Homework.
thing, but okay.
The action paper.
So,
Okay, go.
essentially, explain nila market exploration, marketability, licensing, commercialization, from spin-offs dun sa mga company. So, spin-offs meaning yung mga enterprises na galing sa mga research ng universities or academic entities. Ang keynote speaker nila ay si Sir Nestor Tiglao.
Ah, wow.
At siya yung Chief Executive Officer ng AdaptSense. At ito yung company na very IT-based, information technology-based, and focus sila sa Internet of Things, also known as IoT. So, also, professor din siya sa University of the Philippines,
Yes,
sa
yes.
EEE,
Yes.
sa Electrical and Electronics Engineering Institute. And so, first, i-discuss niya yung history and background ng technology transfer, ano yung role ng office ng technology transfer sa universities, sa mga researchers, kunwari, yung protection ng intellectual property, very important. And ito yung isa sa mga na-surprise ako kasi hindi ko masyadong nakikita to. Yung free transfer ng ideas between academe at saka yung outside entities.
Mm-hmm.
So, Also, niremind niya ako na yung combination ng creativity and technology, yun yung nagda-drive ng success. Tapos dapat as entrepreneurs, kailangan mag-aim high and tackle hard problems. Tapos kailangan mag-focus din tayo sa out-of-the-box thinking. And of course, work hard. Yung perspiration, very important.
Okay.
Tapos, natutunan ko rin about double linking of technology push and market pull. And nag-share din siya ng questions to ask yourself before embarking on a startup. Ang pinaka gusto kong part ay yung paano niya na-relate yung adventures niya as a founder to sa mga concepts ng startup, like theories about startups, and yung management team, kung paano important yung management, kung gaano ka-important yung management team sa isang organization. And additionally, he discussed theory of constraints. Siguro alam mo yun, sir.
Yes, yes. Yes.
So naisip ko na, okay, paano ko i-apply yung theory of constraints sa sarili kong endeavors, kunyari sa masters or any projects na meron ako ngayon. So, paano ko i-leverage yung constraints na yun and make them my advantage as compared to focusing dun sa mga usual limiting, kunyari budgets, or instead na mag-focus sa budgets or like resource limitations, mag-focus ka more on yung timeline and kung ano yung gusto mong output. So, ano yung vision? Yun yung dun ka mag-start. Yun lang.
Thank you for that sharing. Sana napuntahan ko din yung event na yun, pero there are very many events kasi talaga. So, thank you for that sharing, Jane. So, Joshua, you can share one of your events na pinuntahan sa Philippine Startup Week.
Yes. Sa dami ko din na-attend sa dami din na in-offer ng PH Startup Week, siguro ang pinaka-tumatak sa akin is yung talk or the community session ng empowering ng Komunidad, which is yung topic nila is empowering climate resilient businesses and communities. And totoo yung sinabi din na climate change is real. And marami nang nangyayari now sa natin, sa climate natin. Marami ng yelo natutunaw sa North and South Pole. And marami ding hayop na na-endanger na, which is naapektuhan din yung buong ecosystem natin. So, with the power of technology na shinare ni Sir Felix Aike, kung tama ako, the founder and CEO Komunidad Global, he shared yung how powerful data is, using the data on if may magkakaroon ng typhoon or the temperature, and yung shinare na din na ginagamit itong mga kind of data sa airport pag if pwede bang mag-landing na ba yung eroplano or what. And tanong din niya, bakit hindi ito gamitin ng local government, ng mga city or municipality, na which is it will greatly help sa risk management, sa disaster risk management ng mga community, na talagang the news now kasi is accessible everywhere. You can access it through your phone, your email, or the TV or the internet itself. So there are some barangays or city pa rin na hindi pa rin nako-cover yung ganun. Kumbaga, naapektuhan pa rin sila ng bagyo, na nagkakaroon pa rin ng casualties. So, bakit daw na hindi natin gamitin to? Making all of the data available, making all of the data on climate to be available to alert the people. So, nakakatuwa siya kasi as one of the countries na talagang sobrang naapektuhan ng bagyo, na experience natin previously sa bagyong Yolanda, no, at Bagyong Ondoy pa way back in 2010 or 11 ata yun.
Yes, very important din yan and very timely yung pag-respond nga natin sa climate change issues. So yeah, thank you Joshua for sharing. So Shaina, ikaw time mo naman para magkwento ng isang event na pinuntahan mo.
So yung sa akin naman po, so yung isa sa mga favorites ko na napuntahan is yung isa sa event po sa main stage kung saan ito po yung Startup Pinay Conference wherein dito feature po yung mga female leaders in the government sector, in the even the executive space in the government and then corporate world and also yung mga female startup founders po natin. So I like this event po kasi nakita ko how this event showcase yung kung paano how women really tries to break boundaries and maybe really breaking boundaries in the tech space and the innovation space po and startup community wherein they also focus on how these female leaders including our very own Vice President Leni Robredo, USEC Dr. Guevara and Aldaba from DOST and DTI and other female startup and corporate leaders na nagbibigay way sila for other women and other minorities to uplift yung lives nila and change the current situation na meron dun sa problem about gender discrimination and gender equality. And yun, pinapanood ko po yung event na yun. I was really surprised din na okay, meron pala tayong mga government employees including yung two USECs from DOST and DTI na hindi ko masyadong naririnig and alam before watching the event po. And then also yung tumatak po sa akin dito sa Startup Pinay Conference. Like as a woman myself, I can see na marami ng improvements and yung improvements na yun is gawa rin ng mga kapwa babae na they are very brave and really knowledgeable, not just knowledgeable but very smart to really go into these platforms and say na they are capable also. And in the future, nakikita ko na there are many more Filipina in the tech space po and very much soon the startup community will be very yung sa women empowered platform siya. Yun po yung akin.
Yes. Thank you for that sharing, Shaina. Actually, very important. And actually, part nga din yan ng kumbaga parang ini-initiate and ginagawa ng government with regards to our startup ecosystem. So speaking of that, so can I share din yung isang event na pinuntahan ko and actually medyo required tayo to spread about and to share about. So Startup Podcast went to Philippine Startup Week 2021 press conference. So it's basically the conference for media partners where Eunice of Kubo Innovation Hub, so siya yung nag-moderate ng conference with Undersecretary Dr. Aldaba from DTI, Undersecretary Maborang for DOST, and Undersecretary Kaintik for DICT, and Butch Mailey, President of Kubo Innovation Hub. So basically, they talk and the media partners ask like, ano ba yung ginagawa ng government with regard to the growing Philippine startup ecosystem? And especially, actually, kaya tayo may Philippine Startup Week 2021 and kaya parang ang daming nangyayari about startups recently sa Philippines is because of the Innovative Startup Act na sinay noong 2019 with DTI, DOST, and DICT as the lead host agencies. And part nga nito, kaya rin ang daming mga incubator programs now kasi they are really building yung incubators and accelerator programs sa universities. So kaya if you notice sa Bulacan State, sa FEU, sa UP, sa UPLB in different campuses, may mga nag-grow na And may mga nag-flourish na incubator programs and startups.
That's really cool.
Yes, that's really cool. And then, yun nga, with the government kasi, they're really trying to be inclusive. That's what I like best really about it. How inclusive, for example, first, they're really encouraging students to become startup founders. Kumbaga, they're trying to embed entrepreneurship and innovation at a young age, sa college. So, meron tayong mga programs for students. Like for example, the ICT Philippine Startup Challenge. They're really trying to motivate and to encourage students to join and to found startups. And meron ding initiatives really to involve not just Metro Manila but the countryside. So napakaraming growth na nangyayari outside of Metro Manila. In fact, meron ding mga incubation programs na nag-grow outside of, like in Cagayan de Oro, in Davao, in Cebu, and many more parts of the country. And especially part nito, obviously, specify ng DICT na they're really trying hard to, kumbaga, ensure internet accessibility. Kasi that's the backbone of a tech startup ecosystem, di ba? Kung wala kang access sa internet, like how can we perform digitalization? How can we take part in smartphone apps? The movement with smartphone apps now. And finally, yun nga, according to Shaina, women empowerment and women in tech. So, initiatives din ng government, si Startup Pinay and si Women Helping Women. Kasi, like now, ang ratio daw ng women to men founders is 1:2. Although before, actually, mas only pa yung women. Pero we can still, there's no reason na 1:2. Like, bakit hindi 1:1, di ba? So, the government is really trying to make it inclusive for everyone. And finally, yung favorite ko dito is they're really hoping and optimistic that this thriving startup ecosystem can contribute towards job creation para hindi na kailangan umalis ng mga Pilipino ng bansa like me and Jane na nag-aaral lang naman sa ibang bansa pero babalik naman tayo sa Pilipinas. So, actually, habang nanonood ng press conference, naluluha ako. Hindi, joke lang. Pero I really got inspired and emotional sa mga ginagawa and initiatives ng ating gobyerno. So, that's my sharing. And that's also my report about the press conference for Philippine Startup Week 2021. So, okay, next, kwentuhan ulit tayo. So, Jane, can you...
Pwede magtanong?
Sure.
Magtanong sa kanila?
Of course. Go.
Okay. Ang super cool nung pinanood ni Joshua na
Komunidad.
Yeah. Ano yung parang community-based na data, no? Tapos, yung komunidad parang sila lang yung nag-conglomerate. Ganun ba? Ano yung data processing?
Inaalala ko.
Yeah, and as far as I know kasi, si Komunidad, actually I want to invite them dito sa podcast. Actually, they're like data slash may pagka-AI din na company.
AI.
Yeah. So they're really trying to get all those data and parang may pagka-think tank din somehow na for this startup, for this ecosystem, here's what we can do with regard to your industry, with regard to climate change. Parang it's also like that's how they work basically.
Tsaka yung data din nila based dun sa presentation are coming from different sectors, from pag-asa, weather stations, high quality commercial weather datasets, hazard maps, and internal datasets. Yun yung pinagkukuhanan nila. Tsaka yun din yung from Komunidad tina-transfer o doon kumukuha yung mga command center na meron. Kung hindi ako nagkakamali, Mandaluyong or Marikina yung nakausap nila na or naka-partner na nila yung latest. Kung hindi ako nagkakamali.
Yeah, ang galing. So, napaka-informative natin dito. Okay, thank you for that question, Jane. So, kwenta ko ulit pang isa pang event na pinuntahan mo.
Okay, so yung second naman na event, more on the medical side kasi I like medicine, kind of. So, ang title niya is Healthcare Through eCommerce by Interleukin Innovations. So, sila naman, meron silang 2 keynote speakers. First one is Dr. Palat Menon. Head siya ng clinical department sa isang hospital sa Dubai. And diniscuss niya general healthcare procurement. Tapos si Mr. Ki Young Lee, Chief Business Development Officer ng Interleukin Innovations, na nagpo-focus on medical commerce and business-to-business online procurement. So, after nun, may panel discussions with hospital representatives, suppliers, and fintech companies. So, on the general overview ng healthcare procurement, he talked about transformation to a sustainable system. Ano yung mga factors na involved para maging sustainable yung system na yon, like innovation, supplier to customer relationship, tapos decentralized operations. Tapos in-discuss rin niya digital supply chain, kung ano yung present na nangyari sa supply chain and paano pwedeng i-integrate yung Internet of Things dun sa efficiency and pag-collect ng more data and more accurate na data. And he also shared some predictions sa supply chains and technology trends like inventory management, logistics, and communication. So very, very relevant yung inaaral ni Joshua na IT and computer science. And tapos yung second keynote, so from a very zoomed out overview, ito naman more on zoomed in background. Ano yung highlights ng procurement bottlenecks and paano yun nag-i-impact sa inefficiencies ng buong system, kung paano nabibigay yung access sa mga consumers, sa mga patients, kung gaano kaganda yung quality ng services and materials na nare-receive, and kung gaano kamura, syempre, kung gaano ka-affordable. Tapos, in-introduce din niya yung platform nila as a solution for both suppliers and buyers side na merong mababang commission-based payment scheme. So, as a biomedical engineer, na-appreciate ko nakita ko yung complexities ng business development, tas yung role ng IT, information technology sa pag-disrupt ng mga biomedical processes. Kasi, as an engineer, makikita mo yung parang pag-create ng technology and kung paano mga mechanisms on how they work. Pero paglabas nila sa market, kung paano sila nag-engage sa mga communities na gusto mong i-serve, different entities yun, different processes na very complex din. Tapos, with that, syempre kailangan mo ng regulations and kailangan mo ng help from the government. And important, siguro na nakita ko kung paano kailangan natin ng consistent leadership para mag-push dun sa digitalization, especially sa Philippines. And kung paano very important yung excellent implementation. Tapos, kung meron kang excellent implementation, nagta-translate yun sa better healthcare, especially dun sa mga vulnerable economically or environmentally. And yun yung parang dun marirate yung success dun sa procurement ng healthcare, kung ano yung reach and quality and cost na nabibigay mong services and products. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I'm really interested then actually sa Interleukin, and I actually also want to invite them dito sa podcast. Actually, yeah, I've talked na a bit. So, yeah, hopefully ma-invite natin dito sa podcast. Thank you for that sharing, Jane. So, Joshua, kwenta ka ulit. Or baka may questions kayo or from the audience. Joke lang. So, Joshua, sige, it's your time.
Ayan, halos same din kay Jane na
yeah. Dahil
medyo into din ako sa medical field, especially kasi this is the one of the sectors na now na sobrang tama ba sabihin ko ng pinilayan nitong pandemic. And I agree also din dun sa sinabi ni Jane na about we need a leader din na who can help us to expand this idea na meron yung mga startup, kumbaga collaboration with the government and the startup, then equal solution, kumbaga makakreate na ng a much bigger solution with this startup na meron tayo. Just like this one na yung MedHyve. So ang topic nila is, can you build a business on care? healthcare startups responding to COVID-19. So, MedHyve is an intelligent online medical market space. So, nakakatuwa, parang it's a, dun sa nabasa ko sa website nila, they started in 2017. And naging, kumbaga, mas lumago sila nitong pandemic. So, nung nagkaubusan ng face mask, simula nung sumabog yung Bulkang Taal, so there are the ones or part din sila nung pagdi-distribute ng face mask. Kumbaga, the MedHyve connects the supplier to the consumers and using their site. Kumbaga, basically it's an online shopping. Kumbaga, yung mga popular online shopping na kilala na natin. Ito naman MedHyve solely for medical supplies lang. So, dito talaga, nung chinek ko din yung website nila, parang if hindi sila maubusan ng stocks, yung mga hinahanap mo, nandun talaga yung mga medical supplies na kailangan mo. Face mask, face shield, mga upuan, bed, medical bed, yung mga disinfectants or alcohol, nandun din lahat. So, nakakatuwa. And kung hindi ako nagkakamali, parang idea to from 2 people lang. Then, yung founder, which is si, pangalan niya is, kung hindi ako nagkakamali ulit, tinitingnan ko, si Nigel, si Nigel, si Gabriel. They are the founders of the MedHyve. Nigel, Nigel, na-experience niya yung kakulangan ng supplies or the hardship ng mga patients sa paghanap ng supplies through their hospital na pagmamay-ari ng parents niya. So, through it, nagkaroon siya ng idea, why not create MedHyve? So, with this co-founder, si Mr. Gabriel Lopez. Nakakatuwa, paano nag-start and paano na siya nakakatulong now sa mga hospitals and patients.
Yes, and very important talaga ang healthcare now, given the pandemic. And speaking of pala, si MedHyve pala, sila yung nanalo nung Philippine Startup Week 2020. Yes. Yung startup pitch competition nung last year. Yeah.
Then, nirepresent din nila ang PH sa Speedster.
Yeah. Seedstar.
Yeah. Tsaka, ang nakakatawa din pala na kinuwento din dun sa session, meron din silang in-invite na through the panel discussion, meron din silang in-invite na frontliner, tas mga iba't iba ding tech startup na related sa medical field. So nakakatuwa paano naging diverse yung conversation. And marami ako natutunan. Personally, marami ako natutunan, especially on how we need to help the frontliners now. How we need to help the frontliners na meron din businesses. Kumbaga, itong mga medical supplies, sila, tinutulungan din ni MedHyve yung mga frontliners na yun. And ang siguro masasabi ko lang, saludo talaga sa mga frontliners ngayon. At kaya ako natuwa din dun paano sa discussion. Kasi talagang they are the stars. Kumbaga, the frontliners are the stars now, and they deserve a recognition after all of they did for us netong pandemic. At hanggang ngayon, ginagawa pa rin nila.
Yeah, saludo talaga sa ating frontliners.
I agree.
Okay.
So
Palakpakan.
Thank you for that sharing, Joshua. So,
paano yun yung stock nila? Ay, sorry.
Okay, go.
Paano yung stock nila meron ding imported goods?
Meron din, based dun sa website nila, merong mga iba't ibang brands na nandun. So, talagang depende na sa'yo. Depende na din sa budget. Kung gusto mo talaga na mas mura or yung parang pwede mo na sabihin, may right med ba nito? Makikita mo doon. Scroll nyo din. Yung mga nakikinig, scroll nyo din.
Okay, so Shaina, it's your time to share.
Okay po. So, yung sa akin naman, yung second most favorite ko is yung Kubo's Top 100 Showcase. So, it's a 5-day event. So, di ba 5 days yung Philippine Startup Week? And then, every day, meron yung Kubo Top 100 Showcase. And then, doon, different, yung 100 startups, so yung high potential startups in the Philippines ay nag-present in a span of few minutes nung startup nila, and in-explain nila ano yung problem na ina-address, ano yung solution nila, and then yung interesting is how they can solve this societal issue while still ensuring na magpa-profit yung startup nila. And then kasi sa akin, it is very interesting kasi nung previous semesters ko, gumawa rin kami noon, and then I think I feel the pressure and yung hirap nung from ideation and then presentation ng final service mo. So, yung pinapanood ko yung 100 startups, so yun, may mga nagugustuhan ako, and then I've liked how they presented na yung iba very simple lang naman yung problem na sinosolve nila, yet very profitable, and also very new and innovative siya, and most importantly is very tech-based siya. And then meron naman na very big problem yung sinosolve, yet they were able to come up with a solution na very tech-based, innovative, and yet they are still capable of generating profit. And also po, yung Kubo kasi, if I can remember, back 2019, I have heard them through a seminar na inattendan ko siguro because required siya and may incentive. But that was the first time siguro na yung parang nakintal sa isip ko yung word na startup. Kasi before, it's just between business, and then na-introduce ako na iba pala yung business sa entrepreneurship, and then nung umattend ako ng seminar, isa sila sa mga speakers, and narinig ko yung startup, and very intriguing siya na okay, ano yung startup, ano yung pinagkaiba niya sa business and entrepreneurship endeavors. So ayun, isa din dun sa mga nagustuhan ko dun sa Kubo's Top 100 Showcase is yung opportunity to network and meet yung mga startup founders. So through the networking sessions, na-meet ko yung ilang mga founders, and I was really impressed na wow, they are very very approachable, and in a way na nung sinishare nila in a 5 minutes yung kanilang business and why are they here, I'm very inspired. And also nakakatuwa lang din na through this event na yon, yung isa sa mga highlight nung Philippine Startup Summit experience ko is, aside from being part na ng startup podcast, is yung nakamit ako ng isang investor, and then ayun nga, dapat networking session siya between startup founders, pero naligaw lang daw siya na nakita niya yung to talk to her, and akala nga niya I am also a startup founder, and I was able to share and talk with her po na based siya sa LA, and then investor siya. So tinatanong niya kung ano nga yung startup business ko or endeavor. Kaso yun nga, I'm just a student here in the event trying to learn. So ayun po yung akin.
Maybe next time you can also share about startup podcast.
Yes.
and by the way, si Kubo Innovation Lab, it's actually a public-private partnership na talagang mission niya is to, kumbaga, grow the startup ecosystem sa Philippines. And speaking of Kubo's Top 100, alam niyo ba na naka-interview na tayo ng 5 dito sa Startup Podcast from that Top 100. So that's
95 na lang.
95 na lang. So that's, we have already episodes, so you can check out the links. Capital, Better Team, FH Moms, Racia, and Pieza na ngayon lang rin-release. And hopefully, yung 95 pa, ma-interview natin dito sa podcast. Okay, thank you for that, Shaina. So ako ulit. So I will share yung isang event na kino-organize ng Startup Podcast. Actually, in partnership with Startup Podcast. So ang main organizer is UPSCALE Innovation Hub. And yung name ng event is UP Tech Venture Showcase and Mixer. So basically, it's a panel discussion of the TBIs, Technology Business Incubators ng UP from different campuses. and they showcased their startups under them, the tech ventures under them. So we had Dr. Louis Season of Upscale Innovation Hub. We have Miss Maylene Legid of Coastline 5023 sa UP Visayas. Professor Fredizel De Leon, project leader of UP Seeds TBI sa UP Visayas, and Sir Jason Yeba, incubator manager of UP Cebu Init sa UP Cebu, and Sir Richard Day pala, TBI manager of Upgrade at UP Mindanao. So I think what's best then dito is like they're really encouraging the students, the UP students, and actually not just UP students, all university students, to really start startups and to join them. Kasi napakaraming opportunity, kumbaga. I mean, access to funding, connections to investors, trainings. These TBIs, they're really trying their best to give this to these startup founders. So, I actually realized dito while I'm hosting, I'm actually the host there, na napakalaking role ng incubator programs really sa pag-grow ng startup ecosystem ng Pilipinas. So, I'm actually thinking then to interview some of them dito sa podcast. Maybe, I mean, I really think then na maraming matututunan ang ibang tao when we realize also what this incubator and accelerator programs are doing. So yeah, so thank you sa mga sharings natin. Daming events, nakawalo tayo. So very exciting really ang Philippine Startup Week. So maybe just to wrap things up, so paikot lang tayo, maybe a few, maybe 1 minute each. So maybe ano lang yung parang general reflection ninyo about the Philippine startup industry, and na-inspire ba kayo na gumawa ng inyong startup or something? So let's start with Jane.
Ako, na-surprise ako na yung startup industry sa Philippines, hindi lang siya nagbabud, pero paano ko siya i-describe? Parang ablaze siya, on fire siya. So may hope na better jobs, less poverty, tapos more sustainable version ng Philippines. Especially if we take the time to wholeheartedly support yung mga competent and deserving leaders para i-steer yung growth ng nation natin. Tapos, pwede nating mag-take ng practical steps, like supporting the startup podcast of Sir Janni Bordon. Tapos, embracing diversity, very important. And I think becoming aware of our tendencies and accepting differences. And keeping an open mind on learning new things outside our comfort zones. Inspired na talaga ako to make a startup way before. And gusto ko talaga ma-support yung education and medicine. Pero, kasi sobrang kailangan. Pero ngayon, iba yung focus ko right now. Pero I think the important thing for me is to always ask myself if ginagawa ko ba yung things that I do out of love for humans or not. And ang importante is I'm doing my best right now, and I'm making that impact for myself and for everyone. Yan lang.
Okay, thank you for that, Jane. Joshua, how about you?
Sa akin naman, siguro po masabi ko na there are a lot of things na talagang natutunan ko in PH Startup Week this year. Number one is that I was able to join now sa Startup Podcast. So please do support Startup Podcast po ni Sir Janni. And sobrang madami kayong matututunan. Kumbaga, masasabi ko na this is the extension of the PH Startup Week. Kumbaga, dito mo pa mas makikilala deeper yung mga iba't ibang startup. Bukod pa dun sa mga startup na pinesent last week, ito pa yung mas makikilala mo pa iba't ibang startup na meron dito sa Pilipinas. Gaya nga nasabi ni Jane na on blaze, on fire yung mga startup dito sa bansa natin. And overall, masabi ko din in two things na natutunan ko pa sa startup, sa PH Startup Week sa word na up. So yung understanding the problem. So I was able to understand each problem kumbaga tinuruan nila tayo to understand the problem. What is the current problem now? Kumbaga, example is yung sa MedHyve, yung mga medical supply. Example din yung sa helping Pinay startups din. Kumbaga, nakita natin problem na women, the ratio between women and men founders is 1:2. That is a problem. So, they created a solution. At marami pang problem na kayang-kayang solusyonan. Especially the students din na habang nasa school pa, student like me din, marami pa tayong makaka-connect na mga taong who created their startup na or nandito pa lang, nagsisimula pa lang na pwede natin kausapin, pwede natin makakwentuhan in a positive way. The P naman, the positive change that they brought in our country, the positive change and the positive solution na binigay nila sa atin. And sobrang nakakatuwa, sobrang nakakataba ng puso na kahit ang daming nangyayari ngayon, ang daming nangyari sa kanila na pilayan ka na minsan tinatanggalan ka na ng paa na para makapaglakad or buhatin yung mga yung gusto mong pangarap. Kumbaga, sobrang building a startup is no joke. Narinig naman natin lahat yon during the discussions and all. At mga iba pa nating naririnig na kwento. Talagang sobrang nakakataba ng puso how they bring positive solutions to our country. And hopefully, the government will do support yung mga ganitong initiatives ng mga startups.
Please. Thank you for that, Joshua.
The word of the day, blaze.
Thank you, Joshua, for that sharing. Shaina, how about you?
Okay, so for me naman po, ang nasa isip ko lang po talaga nung uma-attend ako nung Startup Summit Week is yung reminder para sa akin na from this, parang nakita ko 7,000 participants na parang okay, estudyante ako, and then parang naligaw lang ako dito sa Summit Week na to, and then yet ang dami kong natutunan, like 5-day siya event na kasi may klase din ako, so on my free time on that week talagang uma-attend ako, and then nakakarinig ako ng mga, it's either bagong information or minsan nakaka-relate ako dun sa mga problems na pine-present dun sa event. So parang it really is an eye-opener po for me na may community. So yung startup community is really focusing on providing solutions from simple to very complex problems that our society and the Filipino people are currently facing right now. And doon naman sa tanong na I'm interested on building a future startup, ay nabanggit ko nga po na kanina na isa sa mga parang reason ko sa pag-attend nung Philippine Startup Summit 2021 is yung increase my network. So previously kasi may mga webinars and events din ako na na-attendan, like na parang ang lagi kong tinatanong dun sa mga speakers, paano po kung may gusto akong gawin, I have the ideas, I have all those, however ako lang mag-isa and wala akong network. So how would I network? How would I find the right people? And parang dito sa event na to, I find the answer na you just go for it, chat, message those people na very high intellectual, very innovative, and very brave to break those barriers and solve these problems na na-identify nila. And yun, finally start a startup. So yun po for me.
Tsaka
Yes.
makinig ng ng startup podcast.
Yes, so startup podcast.
Napakarami natin plug dito. Pero speaking of that, yeah, so maybe yung reaction ko rin, reflection ko rin. Kasi sabi nga ni Eunice nung na-interview ko siya dito sa Startup Podcast, Eunice, Head of Marketing and Communications at Kubo Innovation Hub. The Philippine Startup Week mismo, yung conference, every year, pa-open din siya ng pa-open. And like now, this on its third year, ngayon yung parang ang daming events for students. Ang daming nangyayari really for students. So palaki ng palaki yung conference as palaki ng palaki yung ecosystem. So yun na rin yung reaction ko. So basically, I I think this Philippine startup ecosystem is young and it means napakarami pang potential. And ayun nga, we're ablaze. So parang quantity over quality tayo, I think, for now at least. Kasi kumbaga nag-boom yung mga startups, nag-boom yung mga opportunities. And yun nga din, so share ko din yung vision natin for Startup Podcast. We basically just want to inspire more entrepreneurs and innovators because we also believe that they can create jobs, and not just jobs but meaningful careers. Para ayun nga, hindi na kailangan umalis ng bansa ng mga Pilipino, hindi na kailangan mahiwalay sa mga pamilya. And if you think about it, that kind of country, that kind of society, we can actually do that. We can actually create that. We can do it if we start it. So that's our motto in Startup Podcast. So yun na rin yung parang contribution ng Startup Podcast sa Pilipinas. Basically to start up this wave of entrepreneurs and innovators in the present and future generations. Wow. So yun, so maybe that's how we will end this episode. So thank you, Jane, Joshua, Shaina, for sharing about your experiences, reactions, and reflections about Philippine Startup Week 2021 and the Philippine Startup ecosystem. So very happy ang Startup Podcast to produce this episode. By the way, so plug lang natin si Philippine Startup Week. So you can still rewatch the sessions at their website at www.phstartupweek.com. Get your tickets, enter the conference, and enable show past sessions. And i-upload din yung mga videos sa YouTube. So, yeah. Thank you.
Mapapanood nila yung mga minention natin.
Yes. So, So, si Interleukin, si Bulacan State, si MedHyve, si Komunidad, si Kubo's Top 100, si
Pinay.
Startup Pinay, and si Upscale Innovation Hub, and Presscon also. So thank you everyone. So say thank you to everyone na nakikinig ng ating podcast.
Thank you. Nice to meet
Thank you.
Maraming salamat.
Thank you.